executive with us here for our Gilder August Executive Workshop. And so today's session is really focused around really crafting effective go-to-market plans, strategies tailored to early stage B2B companies. But, Dan just has a very cool background about a lot of this. So Dan, I'll give it to you and you have the floor.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian. Nice to see you all. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to join. Like Brian introduced me, I'm Dan Hurwitz. I'm going to share a little bit about my background with you in a moment. But before, just some, I guess you could call it housekeeping. This is going to be my opinion of stuff I've learned along the way that I'm sharing with you. I welcome, kick the tires, challenge me. I've seen it all, and I'm happy to consider other thoughts and opinions and that sort of thing. So don't think that just because, Brian introduced me as a CRO that's had a bunch of success that I know everything. I don't. I'm still trying to figure it out every day, and things are changing real fast. But I will tell you that some of the things that worked really well for me, I'm going to share them with you today, and we can talk about them. It'll be, for the most part, workshop oriented. So if you got a question or whatever, ask. I would suggest just know that I'm going to be working off of my presentation, and I'm not going to be in the Google Meet infrastructure. So if there's chat stuff, then just you could yell out, or Brian, you could, whatever, interrupt me. And I'll go back and forth between the Google Meet and the presentation just so that I can see what's going on the chat and whatever.
Perfect. Yep. We'll help moderate, and you can also raise your hand as well, group, through using the Google Meet feature. So we'll make sure we get plenty of time for questions and everything throughout the presentation.
There are a couple things I'm going to be asking you to write down and think about. So if you got to, whatever you want to do it electronically on a notepad, or if you got a pen and paper, you might want to grab it. And then also, Brian, I want to confirm the information that I have in this presentation is available for anyone. So I can turn it into a PDF and then zip it out, so you'll have it afterwards. So don't think you have to, ferociously write everything that I say down, assuming you think it's valuable. We good?
Correct.
We cool?
Yep.
Excellent.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Right. So a little bit about me. I've been, for the last 20 years, helping tech startups, B2B, mostly SaaS, go to market and then ultimately achieve results, which for the most part has been exit. We want to exit. I've done 10 of them. It usually is rebuilding, where a Series A company will run into some challenges and struggle with their meeting their KPIs and their revenue goals, and they'll call me up and ask me if I want to help them go to the next level, which means they're all fucked up and they need just help. And I have to unravel and rebuild. But I've also built from scratch 2 of them, actually, and it's easier to do that than to break down bad habits and build them back up again. I have failed miserably, and a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is the result of learning from those failures. I've had multiple exits. I've seen it all. And every day I see something new and I think to myself, I thought I'd seen it all, but geez, this is just incredible. And not always good. Started off as a seller, became a manager / leader, 2 different things. Managing and leading are 2 different things. And now I'm a CRO. Full-time, I typically keep a full-time CRO gig. I'm in the process of looking for my next one right now. And then I also do a bunch of advisory on the side with a company that I started called First Tracks Advisors, and we focus on seed stage. And then I have a podcast that I'd love for you to check out called How to Unfuck Your Startup. I know it's got an F-bomb in there, but if you're not comfortable with an F-bomb, then you probably don't want to be working with me, because I'm just a regular guy. All right, that's me. Game plan. I want to give you all actionable approaches to go into market that you can use every day, that you can think about. I focus on the basics. This will be a segmented discussion. I think there's 16, 17 different points that I'm going to share with you. And I'd ask for you to participate. Don't be shy. Write stuff down, and we can do some Q&A afterwards, or even during if you guys want. No structure. We good? All right. I'm assuming that's good. So let's talk about go-to-market. What is it? I've seen posts of CRO jobs where they're really looking for a VP of sales and not a CRO. Go-to-market is the dining room of the restaurant. It's where revenue happens. It includes sales, marketing, customer success, partnerships. It is not the kitchen where the sausage is made. However, the two have to work together very closely because you can't expect your dining room workers, which are typically wait staff, to succeed when they don't know what they sell and why it matters and what they can do with the product that they're supposed to sell, meaning what are the substitutions if the kitchen hasn't figured that out and told them. So if you've got a startup and you've got salespeople or somebody selling your stuff, and they come back into the kitchen with a fried rice recipe that somebody wants or fried rice order, and the kitchen says, we don't make fried rice, you're screwed, because now you've got a complete disruption in the kitchen and everybody's scrambling, even when the sales rep says, yeah, but it's a lot of money. Doesn't matter if it's a lot of money. You're disrupting your whole company. So know that go-to-market is the dining room, not the kitchen. Okay? Okay, number one, establish your North Star. Where are you going? What's that look like? By when? What does it look specifically like to be in that destination? And make sure you align your entire company so they all know where you're going and by when. And they need to know what their role is. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end when we talk about some operational stuff. So I'm going to ask you, take a moment, write down your North Star right now as you think you see it. And when. And then we can open that up. And I'd love somebody to share it if they wouldn't mind. I'll go back to the Google Meet here so I can see y'all. Anybody want to share what they believe to be their North Star and by when and what that might look like? Don't be shy.
And then quick question too for you, Dan, too, for maybe some like one more layer of clarification as people are kind of writing and thinking of it. So when people say North Star, or when you say North Star, is that generally related to a specific topic? So like a North Star to revenue, North Star to product, or is it just overall, what is the direction of your company and kind of what you want to accomplish there?
The answer, Brian, is yes. Seriously. Is it a revenue thing? Is it a product thing? Is it a I'm going to do good for society thing? Is it a I want to exit at this amount of money based on this amount of valuation, revenue, et cetera, et cetera? It's whatever you want it to be, but you got to have a destination. Kind of think about it as you're climbing Mount Everest. And I actually thought about maybe changing the North Star image here with a Mount Everest image, but you're climbing Mount Everest and you've got a view of what it looks like up there, what it feels like up there, and what you're going to need when you're up there because you can't breathe, right? So what are you going to do to get there? What's your plan to get there? But it starts with I'm climbing Mount Everest, and you can point to it and say, standing at the base, you can point to it and say, I'm going there. And everybody around you that works with you, for you, is seeing that, and they realize we're going there.
Looks like Chris, James, you raised your hand. If you want to tell us your North Star.
Alan, thanks, Alan.
Yeah, sure. So our North Star is to be the leading social commerce platform for both online and local sellers. So right now, basically it's very fragmented. You have people going across social networks to e-commerce platforms to Shopify. So we've kind of streamlined everything all in one platform. I just kind of wanted to ask Dan one quick question.
Sure.
If you get a startup that, like, as an investor, and you say, they say, what's your exit plan or whatever, and you say, like, I want an IPO. Like, I mean, is that like a major, like, red flag, or I mean, because
well, it's not a red flag. It's not a red flag. They may ask you your exit plan, and you should have some sort of a plan, which is really your North Star, right? They're asking the same question. My answer is always, ultimately, I'd like to do X, whether that's IPO or a sell to a larger company. And here's the list of companies that I think would benefit from me based on what I know about their strategies. But I always say, heads down, sell a whole bunch of stuff. Because the more stuff I sell, the easier it's going to be for me to realize my exit plan. And by the way, Chris, everybody is the leading something or other. So change that shit. Everybody's, we're the leading. What does it mean to be the leading? It's kind of ambiguous. Be specific about what your North Star is. That's like saying we're going to climb the biggest, tallest mountain in the Himalayas. Actually, that's a little bit specific. We're going to climb the biggest, tallest mountain we can find. Well, which one is that? All right. And Alan, you wrote something. You want to, let me go look at it and see what you said here. Our North Star is the ability to modify the way funders interact with founders by matching with alignment. Okay.
So to amplify that, the two pieces to that is to make the one and done form that eliminates the noise and the mismatch that occurs daily.
Okay. There you go. Everything you do, everything should align with that North Star. Every employee should know exactly what that looks like, what that means, and should understand the plan that you have set to get there, and they should know their role in that plan and why they are important to it. All pretty logical stuff. You guys, I'm sure you're thinking, yeah, no shit, we know this, but you'd be surprised at how often it's just not done. All right, moving along. Number 2, what do you solve? So remember, you're selling a solution that has an outcome. You're not selling a what, you're selling a why it matters. And the way I like to approach this is I start by talking about the problem. And whenever I listen to pitches from founders, I always say to them, I don't want to know how you do what you do. I'm just not interested in how, but I want to know what you do, why it matters, and what problem you're solving. So you can personalize it. And a great way to start your personalization explanation is to start with, you know, how, when. And I wrote this in somewhere in my list of LinkedIn posts, but the you know, how, when is kind of your elevator pitch, sort of. And so I'm going to share one of mine with you, and then I would think that you guys write yours down and perfect it. So 2 companies ago, I was CRO for a company called Panthera. And Panthera, they're the guys that make the software so that you can download a video asset on, Netflix or Paramount Plus or Fox or HBO and bring it with you on an iPad phone, obviously not a laptop because it's not browser-based, it's app-based. But the idea that you could download it and bring it with you. We called it Download to Go. And during COVID, when connectivity was challenged heavily, especially when you got your whole family, aunts and uncles in the same house, all running off of the same network connectivity, which can't handle the load, trying to watch a video becomes really daunting. So if you download it, you get perfect quality every time. And you don't even need connectivity. So here's what I did. So you guys know how when you're trying to watch a video and you're trying to stream a video, and it messes up and it glitches, or the audio and the video don't align, and you're in the middle of the end of when it's gonna, everything's gonna happen, and it just all of a sudden you get a glitch, or you get buffering and you get that circle of death. You ever had that happen? Now we know that everybody has had that happen. So they go, yeah, how does that feel? Don't you hate that? Yep. Well, we solve that. That's it. That's where you start. That's what we solve. So they understand and can personalize what it is that you do and why they should care. And then you want to quantify it. So, for example, if you can, using some ROI metrics, you could say, back of the napkin, I did some research on your company, and every day that this problem that you shared with me that you have exists, that's costing you X, either in raw, money down the toilet, or in opportunity cost. Okay, so that's important to communicate in the what do you solve. And again, why it matters is critical. Don't explain the how yet. And keep it simple. Okay, anybody want to share a quick, here's what we solve? Feel free. Let me go back to the meet. We all good?
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
So in our case, cold outreach conversion rates are at an all-time low.
Yep.
So sales reps are at a desperate need for scalable warm intro or warm outreach solutions, because they aren't every month they're not reaching their sales quotas, like in the most cases. So we are building a solution to do scalable warm outreach, warm intro solutions.
Love it. I'm going to add to that a little bit. Personalize it. So if you're a smart sales rep, you did your homework on your prospect and you probably know that they are struggling and need help with lead gen, right? That's why they're talking to you in the first place. They agreed to take a meeting in the first place. So you might want to say, you know how the economy right now is really difficult and it's hard as hell for sales reps to generate leads. It's extremely expensive. The BDR model is struggling. Nobody wants your cold whatever. I don't know exactly how you do it, so I want to be careful. But it's really hard, right? Yeah, we solve that. And here's how we do it. We have a blah, blah, blah. But again,
exactly.
it goes later. The how goes later.
Yes.
Or you might say, is that a problem for you? And you want to get their head nodding. Yeah, that's a problem for me. Great. We solve that. We can help you. That's why we should be having a conversation. Okay? So personalize it if you can. Make sure that they feel it. They need to feel the pain. And then when you can, throw some numbers in there, which is the equivalent to what we say in sales is throwing salt in the wound and just digging in with the knife and turning the knife and getting them to feel awful. And then say, but we can solve that. I'm a knight in shining armor, that type of thing. I know it's cheesy as hell, but it shit works.
Yeah. Of
Okay.
course.
Moving on. Next. Thanks for participating on that, Eugenio. Who needs it? So you need to make sure that you have a very specific ICP, your ideal customer profile. You need to make sure that you know it and it's the right one. And the way to know that it's the right one is to validate. So before you go and spend a ton of money building and selling and marketing and selling, why don't you go out and talk to the market first and say to them, as many as you can, we're talking hundreds, and say, this is what we solve. This is why we solve it. If I were to put this product in front of you at a price point of X, would you buy it? Now you need to have these conversations. And if you haven't had them, shame on you. Go have them now. Here's why it matters. You don't want to be a hammer looking for a nail. And I saw this in one of my advisory, my companies that I advised. He built, and I'm not going to get into the details, but he built a product that he thought the market would love because he feels they would like it. Then he went out to the market and he realized they don't want it. They want to continue using the legacy products that they've been selling and not sell his product to their customers because they'll lose the service revenue because he's selling them a brand new, cool, better way to do what they're already doing. And it's definitely cooler and better. But if they take it on, they sell it once and that's it. They can't make their money servicing broken old legacy products. So he failed. So then he went around looking for other markets that he could sell it to, and he struggled. So make sure you validate. Second reason why this is important is those validation conversations that you have, they become your pipeline real fast. So you can say to them, I would love, once we finish the build and I have an MVP, for you to be a beta customer, and I will give you the product for 50% off for the first, 6 months, whatever it may be. And now you got a pipeline. And that's who you're going to call as soon as your product is ready. So that's why validation is extremely important. And when you come up with your ICP, be very specific. And I gave an example. We are looking for SaaS companies that have between 100 and 500 employees that are in the USA, that have a B2B approach, that are VC funded. That's our ICP. Then, very important, go out and make sure that figure out, are there enough of these specific prospects out there, which is otherwise known as your TAM, your total addressable market, that you can sell enough of this stuff to in order to build a business of the size that you're looking for. And that's one of the first things that your investors or potential investors are going to look at. How big is this market? And if you did even 10% of it, is that enough for you guys to build a strong enough valuation for us to be able to, for us to want to invest? Everybody understand that? Stay focused.
Yep. And that, oh, sorry, Dan, too. I just wanted to kind of question here too, because I know this is a thing that we see with a lot of founders too, and maybe others are kind of seeing with their own companies. I think in a lot of pitch decks or a lot of conversations, we'll see founders say, hey, my TAM is X trillion, right? Or X hundreds of billion, or it's very, they're taking like the largest addressable size to try and make it seem, whether it's talking to investors or the people like, yeah, like I validated this, right? This is, this is accurate. How important would you kind of say, like, how do you get people to, right? Because I think nothing wrong with that, but to a certain extent, right, it kind of shows how green maybe someone is if they're kind of not kind of niching down that market even a little bit further. So kind of how do you suggest when people look at TAM, right, not just taking the entire big picture, but realistically what their product or what their company is actually able to deliver on?
Yep, great. Thanks for asking. Here's the way I look at it. If you walk into an investor and you say, my TAM is $4 trillion, you just told them that you're going to go boil the ocean. Good luck with that. Oh, and don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Okay. If you come to them and you say SaaS companies, 100 to 500 employees that are based here in the USA, that are B2B and VC funded, there are 2,700 of them that fit exactly what we're looking for. Those 2,700, we've built a list, and I have gone out and I have validated by speaking to 100 of them. And here are the results of that validation exercise. X% said this, X% said that, et cetera, et cetera. And I have a pipeline of 42 companies that have said specifically, I love what you're doing. I have this problem at this price point. I would buy this. Call me when it's ready. Now imagine that conversation with an investor versus I've got $1 trillion TAM. Okay. Now, a subset of your TAM is what's called your SAM. And your SAM is your sellable addressable market. I didn't put it on the slide. The sellable addressable market is of that total, how many of those can I really sell to? Because these 7 are owned by Google, and these 12 are owned by Meta, and these 8 are owned by Amazon. And so that drops down the TAM to this amount. And then what I'm left with is, these others. And before you really know it, your TAM gets whittled down quite a bit. So do your homework, build a kick-ass spreadsheet, and show exactly what your ICP is. Now you'll see in the bottom corner, it's probably the most important thing you'll see in this entire slide. Don't go chasing a bunch of squirrels. Every day you're going to have that shiny penny that shows up in your lap or on the ground in front of you, and you're going to want to pick it up. And you're going to be so happy that someone is even interested in you at all, that you're like, I'll take it, I'll take it. Well, guess what? You just brought an order of fried rice into your Italian restaurant. You can't do it. Stay focused. Stay very specific to your ICP. Use that information to inform. Maybe you will pivot a little bit as you go, but don't take everything, because you will end up basically playing what they refer to. And I'm using a lot of metaphors here, I'm sorry, but that's what we refer to as kiddie soccer. Wherever the ball goes, you're chasing it. And if you ever watched a kiddie soccer game, it's hilarious. It's also pathetic when you're a company. Okay, moving on. I'm going to speed up a little bit. So what do I offer my ICP? So you need to make sure that when you communicate to them that they clearly understand exactly what they get and what the expectations are, meaning here's what you can expect from it, and here are the details of how you get this puppy up and running. Here's the people needed, the timeline, the technology that you're going to need, the costs associated with that. Make sure you have everything, because the worst thing you could do is go sell them what ultimately they're going to think is a giant homework, exercise and a whole bunch of stuff that they didn't know in the first place. And you've all been there. Had I known I would have had to do all this stuff at the time that I was making a purchase decision, maybe I wouldn't have made it. So make sure you set expectations clear. Next, I see overcomplication as one of the single biggest problems in the marketplace, in the SaaS tech space. This stuff that you've built can be very tech-centric and very difficult. You need to simplify it. So make sure that your messaging and your positioning is very, very clear, and make sure you can communicate and they can easily understand how it's different from who else is out there. Because I guarantee you they're talking to other people. And that's why that red apple in the middle needs to be you. If you put the chart together that says, here's what we do and here's what all of them do, and you've got all the check marks and they only have a few, you're just like everybody else. Don't do that. In fact, if I saw that slide, I'd laugh in your face. Don't do it. All right. Price. How much? How does it work? So the prospect that says, just tell me how much it costs, right at the beginning of your conversation is somebody who you're going to have a nightmare sales process with. The pricing that you share should be shared after you've communicated value. So if I said to you, yeah, my software is $100,000 a month, you'd throw up right there. What? $100,000 a month? You kidding me? Why don't I tell you what it does for first? Why don't I tell you, show you the ROI? What if I told you that the problem that you have, based on my calculations, and you can do your own, Mr. Prospect, is a $3 million a month problem? That 100,000 doesn't seem so much, does it? So always share your price after you've communicated value. Make sure it aligns with that value. So you could say, you're going to save this much based on our modeling, but you're only going to spend this much to make that savings. So this is why you can't afford to not do this. Make sure you explain why you structured the price the way you did, and make sure that in a beneficial nature, you're explaining why it's the best approach for them. For example, so we price this way so that you can predict how much it's going to cost you annually. Maybe you do it on a monthly basis based on usage or whatever. But we do this for you so that you can predict and budget effectively, and it allows you to grow with us without breaking the bank. So it's cost effective and predictable. And that's why we choose to price this way versus how some of our competitors price. And people understand when you explain in business terms this type of stuff. And they go, oh, that's good. That helps us, because we want to make it easy to buy this product and easy to budget for this product. Okay? How am I doing so far? Do I get you guys? Are we good? I'm going to take
looks
that.
like Joey's got a quick question as well. So Joey,
Go
you
ahead.
want to?
And just remember, it's 11:30, or it's 11:30 for me. So we're half past the hour. So we need to roll.
Okay,
Go
I'll go quick here. Thank you so much, Dan. So a quick question. So in a market that is less mature, can you provide some insight on how do you know when you've done enough research on your pricing strategies? Like if you don't have a market to kind of bounce that off of, this is an area where I've kind of struggled with, where we're just not sure where to go. We don't have enough data.
I'm thinking, because I don't want to just rattle off. I want to think through this. So look, you got to start somewhere. Every company that breaks a category has to deal with this. This is a good position for you to be in because you're first to market. I think I would start with the value that you drive. I would during your validation process, that's where you want to get an idea of what are you willing to pay for this. But instead of saying to somebody, how much do you want to pay for this? They're going to go $1. Talk about the value of the problem that you're solving. How much of a problem is this within your organization? Oh, this is a $3 million a month problem. So if I charged you $100,000 a month for this, this is a steal for you, right? They'd go, yeah. Could I charge you 200? Well, I don't know. That's a little more than I have budgeted. So if I charged you 100, do you think that would feel comfortable? Because I'm trying to get a feel for what the market is willing to pay. And you're a very important conversation for me because your feedback is critical. So kind of, they want to be your helpful person rather than, make them the solution, not the problem. Does that answer your question? That's how I'd go about it.
No, that's perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, distribution. How are you going to sell this thing? Are you going to do it through PLG, product-led growth? Are you going to have a direct sales team? Are they going to be inbound, outbound? Is it going to be all channel partners or something else? Anybody want to share an approach that they're thinking about?
Looks like Braden, go for it.
So we build software that helps family entertainment centers minimize their downtime. And the way that we've been finding most effective to go to market is through the people who actually go around advising how to set up family entertainment centers. So go to city, set up a new one, and we use them as a channel partner to actually get us in with those groups and get our software in, and they take a small cut.
Okay. Interesting. So have you already proven that that's the best way to sell your product?
With the size of our team, it's the one that's most effective right now.
Okay.
The channel partners are incentivized to sell it themselves, so we kind of outsource it to them for now.
Okay. I'm going to get back to channel in a little bit, but that's a good example. Thanks for bringing it up. All right, moving on. So your team, if you have a sales team, are they senior? Are they mid? Are they junior? The answer to that question is basically governed by how sophisticated your offering is and who you're selling it to. If you've got a junior knucklehead who is selling your product to a chief product officer or a chief operating officer, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. And at the same time, if you've got a very senior person who potentially could be your sales manager or is already your sales manager, that person selling something that's super simple and easy that doesn't require a lot, you may be paying too much money to get it sold. So it's important to align the sophistication of your offering and who you sell it to with your team to make sure you have the right people doing the job. Oftentimes, these tech products, if it's a tech product that you're selling, is very, very complicated. You may need a solutions consultant. So here's a best practice. It is lethal to have a salesperson try to be technical and go up against an engineer on the buying side, because engineers want nothing more, because it's sport for them, than to prove that that sales rep is an idiot and doesn't know anything, and they get off on that. So you do not want to have a sales rep start having a back and forth with a technical person. Teach your sales reps, or allow your sales reps to be dangerous without getting too deep. Again, technical product. You absolutely want your sales reps to have category expertise and product expertise. But when it comes to changing an entire transmission, save that for a solutions consultant that you can hire. Somebody who is more of an engineer, who is representing the kitchen and not the dining room. Because when an engineer talks to somebody in the kitchen, they feel better and the teeth go away. You guys get what I'm talking about here? I've seen it happen over and over again. This is my opinion. Okay. So what do I suggest here also? Starter crew. If you've got a sophisticated product, go out and hire 2 or 3 really senior people. Pay them a ton of money because they're worth it. If you don't, someone else will, because that's what makes them so good. And have them go out to the market and start figuring out what the recipe for success is with you. You should be doing founder-led sales. You should be writing the playbook. But sometimes it's not as effective to write it on your own. Go get some good, strong senior people in sales. Get a good, strong senior marketing person, and go get a really strong senior customer success or post-sale person, and have them be your SEAL team, and then go out and build underneath them as you get that playbook written. And your playbook should not just be do this, it should be don't do this, and here's why. All right, hiring. My must-haves. Got to be smart. You got to have some EQ. You got to be a good communicator. You got to have sales skills. And you want to be somebody who, if I had to deal with you all weekend and go on an airplane with you, I wouldn't blow my head off because you're a pain in the ass or obnoxious or annoying, because customers are going to feel the same way. Next, bullseye. Let's go into the kitchen for a second. You just brought fried rice in to an Italian restaurant's kitchen. They hate you. First of all, the kitchen needs to tell the dining room what you can sell that can scale, has high margins, and can be delivered without fail, that's valuable for the customer. Go figure that out. Make sure you've got it nailed. Then train the shit, and I had to put that in caps because it's exactly what you want to be doing, out of your sellers so that they stay within the bullseye when they're in the dining room. So if someone says, I want fried rice, that person should say, oh, well, we are an Italian restaurant, and we do have a lot of carbohydrate-rich foods like rice. May I suggest a bowl of pasta? And I can put some vegetables in it, just like fried rice. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what we want. Great. And then you run into the kitchen. Give me a number 6. Extra sauce. Done. Out the door comes a nice meal with a happy customer. Get it? Good. Your marketing strategy. So you want to create a very detailed plan using appropriate channels. These are 4 channels that I believe in. I think these days, thought leadership, content marketing is key. Do a ton of it. The marketplace wants to know that you are the company that they should go to solve XYZ problem. And they should very quickly and easily see you when they do a search, which is why your SEO and your SEM is critically important. And when they learn about your existence, they need to see videos and read content, not stuff that's selling your product, but stuff that's showing that you know more than anyone else in your space. Take to social media and go out there and put all kinds of little tidbits and start conversations and be in the conversation. And then go to conferences and events where you will see people physically and you can join in on their conversations and show how smart you are. But don't sell them your product. Sell them on how smart and credible and trustworthy and thought leader oriented you are, and track everything. Because once you start to see what's working and how much you're spending and what kind of ROI you're getting on that marketing spend, you're going to want to double down, triple down on the good stuff and pull back on the stuff that's not working. Personally, I don't spend much on advertising. It's not working. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're giving them a ton of ad budget, check your ROI, because my guess is it isn't good. It's never been good for me. And again, your business might be specific where maybe you do need to get into the vertical trade publications, websites, and you need to be doing some of that stuff, but I'd rather go to a trade show event. And I don't buy a booth at a conference because I don't want to stand there and give away squishy balls and ask people to come talk to me who only care about, can I bring 3 squishy balls home to my kids? And you've all seen this. Unless you can be somebody who speaks. So if you can be a keynote or you can get on a panel and show them how freaking smart you are, back to number 1, thought leadership, do that. And if they say, well, you can only get a speaking engagement if you buy a booth, great. Negotiate with them and get the smallest booth you can. Give them your squish balls. The best thing to do is offer free drinks. Get people to come over because they want to hang out and drink with you. And then show them how smart you are. Not what you offer, but how smart you are. Okay? Just some marketing strategy tips. Number 11, lead gen. BDRs and SDRs, they're the same thing. Business development, sales development, same thing. It's all about generating pipeline. My best practices, BDRs that made 100 phone calls a day and kicked out 1,000 emails a week, that ship has sailed. No one wants your phone call. No one wants your email. However, if it's really, really smart, back to thought leadership, then it's good. People want to deal with and will accept very, very smart, laser-focused, targeted stuff. But if you're going to throw a bunch of shit at the wall, you're going to get exactly that, a bunch of shit at the wall. I think BDRs that are really, really good, and there's not a lot of them out there, because most people that are a BDR that are really good want to be a sales rep. So make them a sales rep. They're that capable. The rest of them, maybe they're so green and they're so new that do you really want that person trying to communicate the sophistication of your offering to a smart prospect? I don't. So I don't use them. I might hire one senior one if I can find one. Instead, I give that money, and it's a lot of it. As you can see, bullet 2, they're expensive. I give it to marketing, and I have them do a thought leadership strategy. And I do it, again, a shitload of content marketing and thought leadership to try to get the fish jumping in the boat. Consider a company called RB2B. They are able to tell you very specifically within 5 minutes who the person is that visited your website and will help you create a cadence or a communication plan to that person. And they've, until you get them to either, be in your pipeline or not, because they're not qualified, but consider that company, looking into them. I think they're great. And then create a very, very smooth and effective customer experience, or prospect, I should say, experience and process, so that if you're on the prospect side and you're being sold to, it's a really good experience. It's not annoying. I went to go buy my kids a car last weekend, and I'll tell you, it was so freaking annoying. I'm not going to buy from them because they're just too damn annoying. Make it a good one. And then social selling. Train your sellers how to do really exceptional social selling. And of course, track it all. Build structure, build process, create a buyer's journey that I just spoke about, and turn it into a process and stick with it, and write that process down and constantly learn from it. And set goals, smart goals. consider using OKRs. I don't know if you guys know what they are, but it's a objective and key result platform that allows you to make sure that you know, back to your North Star, where you're going, how you're going to get there specifically and measurably, and who's doing what, to make sure that they each can be accountable for the results that they're responsible for. And if you do that right, you will win. And then, of course, leverage your data and your analytics heavily, because you're going to rely on this to make decisions. You're going to fail. You want to see where your failures are. And then make sure that you have your KPIs constantly monitored. I talked about customer experience. Think about what it's like doing business with your company. Are you smart and consultative, or do you make it confusing? Do you make the buying process easy, or is it like doing freaking Russian code breaking in order to figure out how to buy from your company? And does your customer see value at all times? Because if you don't show them value at all times, they are going to leave you, because finance is now involved in deals more than they ever have been. And they don't always understand what you do. They just see you on a spreadsheet with a number next to you. And if they don't understand that value, or are being told that you are valuable, they are going to knock you out. Okay. Partnerships. This is where you asked me a question earlier. Here's your answer. And I'm really going to stick to the bottom line here. You need to be more valuable to them than they are to you, because you got to consider your partnerships are with people who have other things to sell. Your agenda is not their agenda. So you got to figure out how to make your agenda extremely important to them, or else they're just going to keep you in the box and you're not necessarily going to be presented when they are in front of their customer. Okay. And then some successes real quick, because it was put into the promotion of this event and I need to share you what I've done. My first startup was a company called Audience Science. It was a MarTech company. And I did a great success there because I had the best people and the product was really good. So I focused on the people there and they got it done for me. MapMyFitness was a health tech company that we sold to Under Armour. We told an incredible story about our offering whenever we got in front of a customer, whether it be Nike or Brooks Running or even Under Armour, who we sold to. What we did was we put together programs that had never been done before. And when we showed them how much data we have and how we could leverage that data for them, their mouths dropped open like, holy shit, this is amazing. How do we not buy this? And so we sold a lot of cool stuff there and then ultimately sold ourselves. And then Evergage is a MarTech company that we sold to Salesforce.com. Very, very sophisticated, complicated stuff. And I took that story and I simplified it. And I focused on the outcome. And I rebuilt the team from junior. I mentioned knuckleheads. They weren't knuckleheads, but they were very junior. And I rebuilt them and I replaced the entire team with just a few very senior folks that were calling on CMOs. And that was the trick there. So there you go. Thank you very much. It took me the entire time, but I hope you got a lot out of this. If you want to stay an extra couple minutes, I'm happy to, but I do respect your time.
Yeah, quickly, Dan. Braden Clark, you raised your hand a couple minutes ago through the meetings of Braden.
Yeah. So just with your marketing things, I recognize that ads, especially top of funnel ads for a startup, are bad. But have you had any success doing paid low cost remarketing ads? So all those people that come on your website, or that you reach out to, and just blasting your brand everywhere. Have you found any value in that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it works a little bit better because you're talking to somebody who's already self-identified as having the problem, or at least being interested in the problem because they came to your website.
Yeah.
So sure, you could do that. It's expensive. Instead, I would use an RB2B where now you know who they are.
Yeah.
And then you could go after them for a lot less money with some sort of a campaign that specifically speaks to them and their problem and what company they work for and what their title is. So doesn't it sound logically like that might be a better use of the same amount of money?
Yeah. I mean, I would need to know the pricing on RB2B, but yeah.
Yep.
And I know, and I think personally, I've seen this. So Adam Robinson, I believe, right, is the founder of RB2B. He does a lot of really interesting content on LinkedIn. So I definitely recommend, if you don't follow him, He does a really good job of creating this kind of dance of these organic ads where it's like all of his LinkedIn posts are just like, it's got a good hook. If I had, this is how I bootstrap from 0 to 20 million, right? And then he promotes those posts. And so it's really funny. I mean, he does a really good job natively doing it, but
What's his name again?
Adam Robinson.
Yeah.
And so I'll drop it in here too. So I know officially, formally the time, we had this until 10:45. So obviously if you have to hop off, please feel free to. We're still recording. So any other questions? I think I saw a couple. Yeah, and then Joey, thanks for dropping Adam's LinkedIn there. Any other questions that we have for Dan too? And so Dan, actually, I've got one so a couple of people that weren't able to attend, they sent in questions so if you can answer, this is the kind of more common one. So a lot of what you've explained obviously is going through Series A, B, C, kind of that later stage startup phase. Are there strategies that you suggest for, some of who are the founders here who are maybe even just slightly post-revenue, right? Maybe they're bringing in 5,000, 10,000 a month across a couple of employees too, so that their budget's a lot more strapped. How do you deal with that when maybe they can't hire a team of 2, 3, senior executives or things like that? How do you really focus on that spend, or is it all internal to kind of founder-led sales?
So look, this is where you're going to be real soon. If you do a good job, you're going to be there real soon, and you're going to have to make these decisions. So start with founder-led sales. You need to be out into the marketplace, validating every day, asking questions, and getting an idea of what does the playbook say that my hire should be doing. You have to write that playbook. Let me say that in a better way. There's going to be a point where you succeed enough to go hire somebody. You can't continue to do everything. You have to be a leader and unload responsibility to people you trust. If you hire the right person, you can trust them. But they need to know what the heck to do. And you're the one who knows it because you've been doing it. So as you go through this early stage, write everything down that works, write everything down that doesn't work, and start organizing it. And you can use AI to do this simply. If you take a shitload of notes every day, just take your notes, feed them into AI and say, write me a playbook. And I want to know what to do and what not to do, and figure out your prompt. And that might be something I should think about, is how do I do a really good prompt? But then you've got a playbook. Then you can hand that to somebody. But yeah, product-led sales is critical. And just because somebody is willing to walk into your restaurant doesn't mean you can and should sell them something. Don't be afraid to say no. And if someone says, I want a bowl of fried rice, and you don't make fried rice, you have to find a way to be comfortable turning them away, or adding fried rice to your menu in a way that can scale, because you can't be everything to everybody. So there's part of the answer. It's a long answer, Brian. There's a lot there, but I think that those two things are critical. Write a playbook. Be the person who can write a playbook. Write it, and don't be afraid to say no, and stick to your focus of not doing everything for anybody just because they told you that you're pretty. Sorry, I can't date everybody. Only one of you at a time. Any others? Questions?
I think Winston, you raised your hand.
No, I didn't raise my hand. I was just giving a thumbs up. I really agreed with some of the stuff you said.
Okay. Well, good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Perfect.
Anyone else?
Let's see. Perfect. So thank you, everyone. Dan. So yeah, Dan shared his email here. This will all be shared out. Feel free. Do you prefer LinkedIn, Slack, email? Kind of any best way someone can touch it.
Yeah, go LinkedIn. Slack gets away from me sometimes. It gets buried in the world of Slack, but LinkedIn is the best way.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll share this presentation out. Dan, thank you again, especially for your knowledge and expertise. Yeah, excited. All right. Enjoy, everyone. Take care and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks all.